and I want to talk about what you just said, brand champions.
Mm,
When growing a brand, whether it's marketing, whether it's advertising, whether it's PR, you want to have brand champions. You want to have advocates. You don't want your clients to just stay clients. You want them to be a part of that journey because when they become brand champions, they're going to talk for your brand. They're going to fight for your brand. So if there is damage control, they're going to be like, wait a minute, I know them. They don't just do this. There's right. Mention a burger scenario. The guy, if somebody say, "Oh, you had something bad," well, you should talk to him.
yes.
I went through that with him. They do this, 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 and this. Now he's fighting for you. Now he's a part of your team, right? Whether he's getting paid or not, he's a part of it because you made him feel a certain way, right? And that's
Yeah,
always the end goal. That's why you always want to be human. You want to be authentic, but you want to build that relationship with your audience to the point where they become advocates, where they become brand champions, because then you stop fighting by yourself and start fighting a little bit more with the audience that you built.
absolutely. Yeah, I one of the easiest ways to be able to express that is there's the beehive. Shame on you, you get online or you go someplace and you say something bad about Beyonce. Like, she's built up brand champions to the point where she doesn't have to say a word. They defend her in rooms that she's not in,
She
and
don't
they've
say a
defended
word.
her so well that people are scared to say anything.
Yep.
Nicki Minaj has her own audience. There are a lot of people that have built their brand out in ways that allow them to have brand champions that fight the fight for them. And a lot of what we've been discussing is how to be able to have yourself spoken positively about in rooms that you're not in. And this is how you start to build that out. This is how you start to piece some of that stuff together. So let's talk about personal brand versus a business brand because some people look to be able to build out their brand based on who they are as a person. And one of the things that I tell them from an advertising standpoint and just from someone that had like a music background, there's advantages to it and there's disadvantages to it. Um, what I want to be able to do is have you talk about it. So let's talk about a personal brand versus a business brand. And how does someone know whether to build a personal brand or keep themselves behind the business brand? Similar to, we've seen a lot of different examples of people that stopped up. I think of Papa John's. That's one of the first ones to come to mind for
Yeah,
me.
that's a good one. Um, I'd probably say first thing,
Mm-hmm.
you can do both. I don't want to discourage. You can do both in terms
Mm-hmm.
of as a small business. I know being the face of your brand is very appealing, right? But it comes to a certain point, right, where yes, you can leverage being a personal brand because that's the relationships that you have. But when you are training, you are bringing your team, and you are expanding, all right? I know Sean because I know Sean, right? But I
Yes.
ain't gonna work with Rebecca because I don't know Rebecca. So now it starts becoming daunting. Like I want to expand, I want to scale, I want to take a step back. But as a client, I'm not. Hey, Sean, I don't know this. I know you. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to stay here. So there is a way to do it. I don't want to completely discourage it, but as you expand, you need to start thinking about what is the relationships that you have, the values that you have, and how does it relate to your overall company brand?
Yes.
Is that the same values that is displayed across the team? Right? Because when you look at a whole company brand, it's about everybody. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just about if I go to Starbucks and that worker makes me upset, I'm mad at Starbucks. The whole
Yes.
company, the whole organization, all for one team member. They have millions of employees. I'm mad at that one, taking it out on everybody. Right. And that's kind of the difference. So you gotta understand, like when you start talking about company brand, you are responsible at the early age, right? It's as a small businesses,
Yeah.
it's very easy to talk about this is how I want it done at this stage with 3
Mm-hmm.
members, with 4 members. You get to 10, it starts getting a little complicated. You get to 20, it starts getting a lot more complicated. So it's always important to have those brand values in terms of this is how we operate. This is how we show up the media training. This is how we show up
Yeah.
in the world. This is the conversation we're part of, right? And then once you build that out, now you can kind of separate this is me who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the company I have. we're growing this thing. This the conversation we'll be a part of, but necessarily what I do doesn't necessarily affect my company because you
Yes.
understand the experience of that company, right? Elon Musk does a lot of dumb stuff. Tesla might take a little hit, but they don't take a lot of hits.
They're still
They're-
here.
because they're still a good company. They still have good PR, right? Extreme case, Diddy, P. Diddy. One everybody should know him. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. But
Mhm.
he has a company called Revolt.
Yes.
Sean, Sean Combs was doing a lot of stuff, right?
Yes.
Before even the allegations, the crimes, all that, he had TV shows where he was wilding, right? He was being
Mhm.
a terrible person, right? To what was it, rap kids, rap stars, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And he had Revolt. They didn't take hits from that
At
because
all.
they had certain values, right? So now when you are a small business and you are like, I'm growing my personal brand, I'm being known for this, my company is also doing this. Now I can start diverging, right? Now I can
Yes.
start. Well, one, I don't want you to be. I'll highly recommend you don't just be off the hinges. Like, still keep your music, right? But you can start diverging because this is
Yeah.
the experience I know I'm getting with this. And now you can start bringing in investors and
Yes.
stakeholders for that company because you built it to be sustainable without you, right? When you just have a personal brand, you are the brand, right?
Yeah.
This sustainability is based off of you. If you can't be sustained, your company can't. And that's kind of the problem with personal brand versus company brand.
I love where you went with it with the Starbucks analogy because that's something I think people can understand. I'm with you. My advice to people is to build both. If you're relying strictly on one, something can always go wrong. If you have both, then it gives you something that you can kind of pivot to. And as you start to grow and scale, you can kind of diversify things in ways that make a lot more sense. Let's bring it back around, and I'll just continue to stick with the theme of what you started with because I trust in what you're saying, and I trust in what I've seen and in my eyes. You can start with the human version because people invest in the people that they feel like they know, like, and trust, and the people that they feel like they know. So if you're building out both, there's nothing wrong with starting with the personal brand because when you're starting out, people are investing in you. That's the reality of it. But as you start to look at being able to build out and scale, then you want to kind of be able to diversify things, build out that business brand because at the end of the day, it is a business. And you want the business to be able to do business things and not affect you as a person. So if someone is building something out and they know they have to raise their prices because, prices need to go up, you have to pay for overhead and all the rest of that. You can still maintain your personal brand, but you can kind of switch things over to the business side. Like in order to maintain the business and maintain the experience that you've been enjoying, then the business has to be able to charge more money. It's not you specifically saying, I'm taking that money so I can put it in my pocket. It's reminding people that there's the business that needs to be able to function. There's the accoutrements, if you will, that all of these people have gotten used to. Like you like being able to go in and get napkins, like when the pandemic happened, they were like, oh yeah, and now you have to pay for shopping bags. Pandemic is long since over. How many people are still going in and just giving away shopping bags now? Now it's like if you go into the store, a lot of times you gotta go into the store with a bag or you gotta buy a bag.
Mhm.
So it's understanding that there's different things that you can kind of separate over to the business side. And once people get trained on understanding that's the business, you can separate yourself. And that's where you can have the two. When I mentioned Papa John's, there was a thing where the guy said something and it didn't go well. And Papa John's was smart enough to be able to say, you know what? We're going to remove him and we're going to put somebody else in as a spokesperson, but it's not going to actually affect our brand. You see so many
Yeah.
different variations of it. I love that you went with Revolt because Revolt is a great example. Because while a lot of things were going on, they never really took a hit. Their shows, none of the content, any of the things that they were doing were going to take a hit. I've worked for places where they had a great experience that they were offering people. And because there was someone that was doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing, it didn't affect the brand. They just were able to remove that person or put them in the background, and you just didn't have to look at that person, but it didn't affect the actual business. When I got my start, I got again, I'll bring it back to the music industry. One of the things that made me fascinated about it is I got to learn it on one of the hardest sides, because on the music industry side, an artist and people are one of the hardest things to be able to package because people say and do things. But if you're talking about a product or a service, it is what it is. So if you can figure out how to be able to build out the business side, that's the product or the service. The personal brand is the person that may say or do something, but it shouldn't actually affect the actual business. So I love that you were able to package that up and highlight the differences, because building one, there's the business and it may feel impersonal, and it may be something like one of the reasons people like small businesses is because they have that relationship. They feel it's more of a, they get to know the owner, they get to feel like they're having a real engagement, as opposed to a chain store where you go in and you can see someone and the person helps you and you go back in and they've seen so many people that they may not remember who you are.
Yes.
So that's the business brand where, you're going there, but you're going there for the convenience, you're going there for whatever the experience is. When you're going to someone that's a small business owner, you're going to them because of who that person is, and it's probably got more character involved in it than it does the business side. So
Yep.
start with the character and then start to look at how you can fill in the other parts. So when it's business and you can separate the two. So you don't have that one barista that does something and they're like Starbucks, everybody can get it. So I love that you use that as example, and Revolt also, because those are great examples for people to be able to go, if one doesn't relate, the other one will.